Hi there, and welcome to this day in history for March 6th. March 6th is the 65th day of the year in the Gregorian calendar, 66th in leap years, with 300 days remaining to the end of the year. Today's word, totally random, unrelated to anything we'll talk about today, is interest. Interest can be a noun or a verb. As a noun, interest is a feeling that accompanies or causes special attention to something or someone, as in, I have an interest in this craft project. Interest can be something or someone that arouses such attention, like a love interest. Interest can be a quality in a thing or a person arousing interest. The word interest is also used in the world of finance to mean a charge for borrowed money, usually a percentage of the amount borrowed, like the 3% mortgages that we'll probably never see again. Interest can be the profit in goods or money made on invested capital, as in, he earned some nice interest on that investment. Interest can also indicate an excess above what is due or expected, as in, she returned the insults with interest. Interest might also be a right, title, or legal share in something, or a participation in advantage and responsibility. As a verb, interest means to engage the attention or arouse the interest of, or to induce or persuade to participate or engage, as in, may I interest you in a plate of cookies this afternoon? The word interest comes to us through the typical iterations of Middle English, Anglo-French, and medieval Latin, originally from straight-up old-school Latin, and an Indo-European root word before that, where it evolved from a word that meant to be. First known use of interest as a noun is in the 1400s and as a verb in the early 1600s. Interest. Now remember, if you have a word you'd like us to examine, drop it in the comments. We'll take a look at it. And with that, the Missouri Compromise was signed into law by President James Monroe on March 6, 1820. We've talked about the Missouri Compromise before, but just to recap, this compromise would allow Missouri to enter the Union as a slave state and Maine to enter as a free state, and then the remaining portion of the Louisiana Purchase territory would also be slave-free. The Texas Revolution was a rebellion of colonists from the United States, known as Texians, along with Hispanic Texans, known as Tejanos, against the centralist government of Mexico. Things had gotten ugly, and on February 23rd of 1836, some 3,000 Mexican troops entered San Antonio and surrounded the Alamo mission. The small force of somewhere around 200 to 250 Texians and Tejanos, led by William Barrett Travis and James Bowie, and included Davy Crockett, fought to defend the Alamo for nearly 2 weeks. On March 6, 1836, the Alamo was captured. Any of the defenders who hadn't already been killed in battle were quickly executed per Santa Anna's take no prisoners policy, leaving the only survivors to be women and children, plus a slave who was considered to be a non-combatant, and a Mexican army deserter who was able to convince the Mexican soldiers that he had been taken prisoner by the Texians. Only those were allowed to live. This is the birthday of Gabriel Garcia Marquez, born March 6, 1927, in Colombia. He's an award-winning writer, best known for his novels and short stories, and is associated with the magic realism movement. His works include the 1967 novel 100 Years of Solitude, which sold over 50 million copies, and the 1981 novel Chronicle of a Death Foretold, and the 1985 novel Love in the Time of Cholera. Gabriel Garcia Marquez came to my attention when I was in college with a short story called A Very Old Man with Enormous Wings. I may have mentioned this story before. I did find a PDF of it online, which I'll link in the description if you'd like to read it. Interestingly, Gabriel Garcia Marquez attended law school for a while before deciding to switch to a career in journalism. Gabriel Garcia Marquez is the most translated Spanish language author and was eulogized as the greatest Colombian who ever lived when he passed away in 2014 at the age of 87. Gabriel Garcia Marquez. In 1943, illustrator Norman Rockwell created a series of 4 paintings based on the 4 freedoms discussed in Franklin D. Roosevelt's State of the Union address in 1941. Those freedoms, by the way, are freedom of speech, freedom of worship, freedom from want, and freedom from fear. And it was on March 6, 1943, that the image, Freedom from Want, was published in the Saturday Evening Post, along with a matching essay by Carlos Bulosan. Now, if you're curious about other things we might have talked about for March 6th in a previous year, I'll leave a link to one of those previous episodes. All this talk about interest earlier reminded me of a song by the Hollies, so I guess the word of the day was related to something else we would talk about after all. I remember hearing Pay You Back with Interest by the Hollies on the radio when I was a kiddo. Written by Alan Clark, Tony Hicks, and Graham Nash, Pay You Back with Interest was a single released only in the U.S. from the Hollies' 5th album, For Certain Because. That was a 1966 album, but it looks like Pay You Back with Interest was released as a single in 1967. It reached number 28 on the Billboard Hot 100. Pay You Back with Interest by the Hollies. Link in the description. Alrighty, thank you so much for watching. Consider subscribing if you haven't already. Feel free to share this video with a link in your email, messaging, or social media. If you enjoy this series, you can check out the playlist that contains these videos. I'll put a link to that in the description. That description lives on YouTube, so for other platforms, I'll include a link to my blog page that's called No Really. You can also find me on Rumble, BitChute, and Odyssey. All those links in that description. Alrighty, that's all I can think of right now. Thanks again, and I'll see you next time. This is the birthday.
I didn't get that. Could you try again?
I wasn't talking to you. Me and my mouth. John, are you kidding me? Okay, hold on. We got to make that be quiet. You got to read the black part. Hi there, and welcome to This Day in History for... Oh, where's your microphone? Okay, we don't want to say the same thing twice. Oh, get your microphone. What is it with you and this microphone? Okay, here we go. Okay, we are still recording. That's great. Okay. How about that? We'll have a lot to edit today. Cacophony is a sound. Cacophony is a noun that you got to read it the right way. Let's start over. It's 8 o'clock, so all of the reminders are going to be dinging. I forgot to turn those off. Okay, stop it. It's 8 o'clock. Don't alienate people who can be helpful to you. Flinging happiness all over the place. Alrighty, back to work. I think we got it this time.